Hi, this is Vicky from the Spellbound Bead Company, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make this great tumbling icicle decoration. It's available as a kit on our website, but if you want to make one using beads from your own stash, here's what you're going to need. You're going to need some size 8 seed beads. These are referred to as A in the kit instructions and in this video. You're going to need some 6mm plastic facets. These are referred to as C in the kit and in the video. And you're going to need some 4mm plastic facets. These are referred to as D in the kit and the video. You're also going to need some 0.2mm soft wire. We're working with 80 centimeters here. So if you're having it from the kit, what you need to do is just unravel it, cut the length that you need, and just make sure there's no kinks in the wire. So if you've got any, just give them a rub and get rid of them. What you want to do is avoid getting any kinks in the wire, because these will make weak spots or like knots. So it's a bit like if you get a knot in your thread. We're trying to avoid that if we can. What we're going to do is we're going to start by putting a stop bead on the end of the wire. So we're going to leave a couple of centimetres, and I'm just using, it's just a size 6 seed bead that I had knocking around on the mat, and we're just going to take the end of the wire back through there, and then what will happen is the sequence of beads that we're about to thread on won't slide straight off the end of the wire and leave us in a bit of a tangled heap. So I'm going to start by laying out the beads that we need for the first strand of the icicle. So we're going to start with a C bead, then 2A, then a C, an A, C, an A, C, an A, and a C, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 C beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So one more, A and C. And then the next bit of the sequence starts with 1 D bead, which was our smaller facet, then 1A, 1D, 2A, 1D, 2A, 1D, 2A, 1D, 2A, oops, 2A, 1D, 2A, 1D. Just double check how many I've got here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've lost my place in my sequence. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So then I need 3A here. This is all obviously written down in your kit. 1D, 3A, 1D, and then 8A for the bottom of the icicle. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8. So just take 2 of those away. Okay, so just to run through the whole sequence for you again. You've got 1C, 2A, 1C, 1A, 1C, 1A, 1C, 1A, 1C, 1A, 1C, 1D, 1A, 1D, 2A, 1D, 2A, 1D, 2A, 1D, 2A, 1D, 2A, 1D, 3A, 1D, 3A, 1D, and then 8A. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pre-prepared length of wire, and I'm going to thread all of these beads on. So, and just literally pick them up and put them onto the wire. So you can actually pick them up and put them on without laying them all out beforehand if you wanted to. I find it's just easier to put them all out beforehand so you know where you are and what you're doing. So I'll keep coming down. Whoops. There we go. Just make sure if you are going to lay them out in a sequence like this, that you make sure which end of the sequence you're threading from. You might end up with something that looks slightly different to the way the designer intended if we suddenly change direction halfway through. So here we go, just keep threading all these on all the way along the sequence. So we're using plastic facets because they've got a slightly larger hole than the glass facets. So some of these beads are going to be passed through with the wire a couple of times, so it helps to have that slightly larger hole. You are using a fine wire, so you should find that a glass facet would work, but it will make the icicle much heavier as well. There's quite a lot of facets on this design, so you don't want anything that's too, whoops, there's a hole there somewhere. You don't want anything that's too heavy, because obviously it'll make the overall decoration very heavy. Oops. Here we go. Last couple of beads. This is actually quite simple. You just have to concentrate to make sure that you're going through the correct beads. So just check I've got 8 here. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so now if I pull all of those beads down, they're all going to sit up by the stopper bead. And now we need to turn the end of the wire around. So we're going to leave the last bead to one side to act as a stopper, and we're going to go up through the next 2A that we've threaded on, back up towards the top of the strand. Just like that. Okay, so you want to pull it so that it's reasonably tight. You don't need it to be super stiff and super straight, but if you just make sure that all of your beads are lined up nicely next to one another, so you haven't got any gaps or any loops in the thread. So again, just turning my instructions over, we're going to pick up the sequence that we're going to thread back up in this opposite direction. So we're going to start with 3A. Let's just move this slightly up out of the way. It might be just slightly out of shot, but it is still there. So here you can see I've got the next sequence ready laid out, sorry. So we've got 3A, 1D, 3A, 1D, 3A, 1D, 2A, 1D, 2A, 1D, 1A, 1D, 1A, 1D, 1A, 1C, 1A, 1D, 1A, 1C, 1D, 1A, 1D, 1A, 1C, 1A, 1C, 1A, 1C, and 3A. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick all of these beads up with the end of the wire. Oops, try not to knock everything out of sequence. So I'm just going to move the beads I've already threaded off the edge of the camera just so that everything's not working against itself. So pick up all of these beads here. So again, just try and keep the end of your wire straight and free of kinks. You'll find this makes it much easier to thread. There we go. So this strand is slightly shorter than the previous strand, and then the next strand, the third strand that we put on, will be slightly shorter again, and then the fourth strand will be shorter still. And this helps, along with the direction that you thread the wire through the beads, this will help your icicle to twist. So it won't look like much while you're making it, but once you get to the end and give it a twist, it's like magic. It sort of goes from being a few strings of beads to being an actual icicle. There we go, nearly there. Here we go. Oops. Okay, and then 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we'll slide those down so that they're sitting at the bottom of the icicle. So you've got like this little V point at the bottom. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take the end of the wire through the very first C bead that we put on in the same direction as before. So we're going to come from the stopper bead towards the rest of the strand. So just through that one bead, and don't go through the stopper bead, just through the C bead. That. Oops. I just need to move that out of the way. And there we go, through there. And then pull on that strand of the wire, the long end, and it'll pull all the beads up. And then what you want to do is this C bead that you've just gone through here, that's going to be the top of the icicle. So you want that to sit at 90 degrees to the rest of the strands. So I think in the instructions it does say horizontally, but as I'm working sideways, for me it's vertical and everything else is horizontal. So there we go. Untuck the bead. So I'll just move this up out of the way here, and we will thread on our next sequence of beads. So we're going to start with 5A, 1C, 1A, 1C, 1A, 1C, 1A, 1C, 1A, 1C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there, and we go 1A, 1D, 1A, 1D, 1A, 1D, 1A, and then we've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 D beads. Told you the sequences will be getting shorter. So now what we're going to do is, again, the same as before, we're still working on this long end of the wire. We're just going to pick up all of these beads as we go along. So start with a 5/8, C. As you're working, you'll find a method that works best for you. If you find the way that I'm working doesn't work for you, if it's a bit uncomfortable, if it seems a bit back to front or upside down or round in a circle, then change it. Work the way that suits you. It's all well and good copying what I'm doing, but if it's going to make you uncomfortable, if it's going to give you a pain in the wrist or something like that, then don't do it, because beading is supposed to be fun. We're supposed to be having a nice time, remember? This is a relaxing hobby, hopefully, for you. So you've got to work in a way that suits you best. Make sure that you take breaks while you're working as well. If you're working, this is quite a quick project, but if you're working on one of our longer projects, just make sure that you stop and you stretch and you have a wiggle, and you make sure that you're not getting yourself tied up in a knot. We don't want any tension headaches. Okay, so that's threaded my sequence on there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to count up from the bottom of the row, the previous row that we did, until we get to the 5th D bead. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now what I'm going to do is working wrong direction there. I'm working left-handed, so let me just turn that round. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to come 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to come down through that bead and through the 2 A beads that are underneath it there. I'm going to pull that tight. Okay, and now we're going to come back up through the first strand. I'm going to count up from the 4th D bead from the bottom. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, I'm going to turn that round and I'm going to come up through that D bead. And then I'm going to come up through all of the beads above it until I come up through the 3rd D bead. So 1, 2, so I'm going to come up through that bead there and all of these beads in between. So take your time, do as many or as few beads in one go as suits. You know, sometimes the wire will dictate to you. Just make sure that you don't get any kinks in the wire. See, that's going to start trying to form a little knot, so I'll just pull that through. Tell the wire what we want it to do. We're the boss. Okay. So we're going to go through a D bead, a 2A and a D, and that's come up through one of the A. Through there. Let's pull that one through. And just check again. So that's the first one, and then we've come up through the 3 D beads above it. So we've got one more sequence of beads to thread on. So it's 1A, 1D, 2A, 1D, 2A, 1C, 1A, 1C, 1A, 1C, 1A, 1C, 1A, 1C and 1A. Okay, so we've used up all of the C beads that we've got there. I did put a few extra of the 4mm facets on because I lost count of where I was, so that's why there's a few extra of those. So we'll just pick up this last sequence. So, that bead hasn't got a hole in, so we'll chop that for another one. You might find you've got the odd bead in there that's got a blocked hole, but when we pack the kits we do pack with plenty of beads, so you shouldn't have any. You know, if you've got the odd bead that's got a blocked hole in it, you'll find that you've got some extras, so don't worry about, we don't go through and count all of the beads before we start, because that would make for a very long kit packing process. So, all of these. Okay, through there, and through there. And that's all of the beads. And again, we're going to come through this first C bead that we put on in the same direction again. So we're coming from the stopper through the bead again. Okay. There we go. So that's the 4 strands for the icicle. So what we'll do now is we'll make the hanging loop that sits above. So we've done the 4 strands of the icicle, so we're just going to make this hanging loop above here. So we're going to pick up 3 A beads, 1, 2, 3, let's bring them in a little bit, and a D bead, and then we're going to pick up 24 more A beads. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I do apologise, I can't count in my head. 15, 16, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Okay, so let's just move those extras out of the way. So what we're going to do now is we're going to come back down through that D bead in the opposite direction, and what that will do is it'll bring these 24 beads into a hanging loop. Okay, so you've got a bit of, because you've got a few extra beads in your kit, you can make this slightly smaller or slightly larger if you wanted to. So now's the time to adjust it. And then we're going to pick up 3 more A beads. 1, 2, 3, and we're going to go through that C bead at the top there again, and you can see this is why you need to have beads that have got a reasonably large hole in. Okay, so that's gone through that again. There. Okay, and now we're going to reinforce this loop by taking the wire up through it again, so through all of the beads as you've just threaded on. So up there, up through your D bead, there, and then through all of the beads we've got here. So again, go through as many or as few in one go as is comfortable for you. Sometimes the wire will dictate to you how many beads you're going to go through. Remember, you're trying to put something reasonably straight around a curve, so you might just have to do it a few at a time. And you go around this curve at the top here. Okay. All the way down. Through those last couple of beads. Through the D bead. Oops. See the wire's just getting a bit kinked on the end, so just run that through your thumb and your finger to straighten it out again. Makes it much easier to thread it through. There. And then when you come down here, what you want to make sure is that you come out so that you're coming out next to this stopper bead. So through that, 1, 2, 3. Like so. Okay, so we're nearly at the end, so we need to finish this end of the wire off. So we're going to take this stopper bead off, so just undo that loop that you put on to start with. Take that off and put it to one side. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take these 2 ends of the wire and we're going to hold them about 5 to 8 millimeters away from the end of the wire, the end of the bead, and we're just going to twist them together. So you might find it's easier to twist the wire or to twist the icicle. As you can see, I'm twisting the icicle. And what you'll find there is you've got this little section of wire where the 2 ends of the wire have been wrapped together, so it's nice and sturdy. And that will hold the end excuse me, that will hold the ends together. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take both ends of the wire through that C bead there. Again, so there's one end through. And there goes the other end, and pull those through again there, and pull that through, and you sort of hear it pop into place. And then with a pair of wire cutters, we're going to carefully make sure we don't cut through any of our wires that are holding the icicle together. We're just going to snip those ends off, Move that bit of wire out the way. If you can feel a sharp end there, just give it a rub with your nail and push it down against the bead. And what that will do is it will just tuck it in and just make sure there's no sharp edges. Because obviously when everybody sees your beautiful handmade icicles, they're going to want to pick it up and admire it. So just make sure there's nothing for them to catch their fingers on. And now for the magic bit. So at the minute you've got sort of like something that looks sort of vaguely icicle-ish. What you're going to do is you're going to hold the bottom of this icicle here where it's connected. You're going to hold just at the top and you're just going to twist. And if you twist that in your fingers, just twist it around a couple of times. And there we go, an icicle. A pair of icicles. The kit's got enough in it to make 3. And don't forget the phrase, thank you. Yes, I did make it myself. Enjoy.